What's up, guys? We got another trade recap today. As you can see by the title, we hit big today. Not gonna lie, but it was definitely due to over leveraging. I don't want to really say that this trade right here was a trade that I'm 100% proud of because we did have an incident when placing this trade where I actually put too big of a contract. So I essentially thought I put one contract down when I was like, okay, let me actually use two instead. So I try to add another contract to my order. Like I said before, I'm not the most familiar with trading view in terms of a platform. I come from Forex, we come from MetaTrader 4. So I put another contract down, I didn't see anything. So I'm like, okay, it must have canceled out my first contract and added a second one. So I added two more contracts. And little did I know, I'm in four contracts deep in this trade, and I didn't even realize up until the last minute. And it's good at that point. I was just going to go ahead and commit to it, but end up trade hitting our take profit, luckily. But I do want to notice, or at least point out the fact that this was not supposed to hit for as much as it did, but we'll take it. However, I did want to note that that is an example of over leveraging. I'm not really comfortable with the risk that I was giving. It's like $1,000 risk on this trade, which is like double what I'm expecting to do on these type of accounts. So I can't really endorse the amount of profits I made today. I mean, it looks good in a YouTube channel, it looks good on a challenge. All that's great, but in all reality, this was not a good trade for me to take. So, in terms of risk management, other than that, I'm very happy with how this trade played out. And we'll get into it and talk about how we took this trade and how we identified it and all that. So, cool. So first, we're gonna start off on the daily time frame with ES. Um, if we go into the daily, and we'll talk about primarily Monday and just in general, really. If we look at ES, we're at all-time highs. This is all-time highs on ES. Um, we've been having nothing but bullish movement the past couple days. Really, we kind of broke out of this accumulation we had going for this entire 2 week period, pretty much, and now we're making new all-time highs. And going into today, what do we see? We see price pretty much at all-time highs or near that area that we made yesterday. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So going into New York session, pretty much this whole New York hour or 4 hour candle, we pretty much were at all-time highs. As you can see, this 6 o'clock candle going into New York session. Before this, it was, I want to say, pretty close to how it looks now. All I did was pretty much identify the highs we had at that point where liquidity was stored. So, of course, we had highs on the 1 hour time frame right here, which is our London high. If you come over here, and I switch my colors of my lines right here to identify where our highs and lows are to black instead of blue. So I'm just gonna go ahead and switch this one too, just while we have it up, not confuse anybody. Switch this to black, switch this to black. Cool. So going into New York session, which is right around here, we identified the London high, all-time day high, as well as the high from yesterday. And if we go to our lows, we see all this liquidity. We see this fat fair value gap here, as well as the previous low from yesterday. And me, honestly, I wouldn't want to, I don't like taking buys at all-time highs personally. So I really probably would never took a buy in this type of model until price came down to somewhere down here. But going to today, what I was primarily looking for was price to clear previous liquidity, even from the last session or these highs up here from yesterday, and take a sale. Not for nothing too crazy. I'm sure I could have held it for longer, but I was just looking for something just to take it pretty much up until the next level of liquidity, which would pretty much be right here. So knowing that, we're gonna go into the 15-minute time frame and discuss New York Open. So at 9:30, which was right around here, we see that price right before 9:30 cleared previous London liquidity right here. Never come up to take out all time or the daily high liquidity. But to me, this was good enough because we can see on the 15-minute, we seen this fair value gap right here, right? We've seen a nice fair value gap right there on the 15-minute. And what do we see price do? Let's go to the 5-minute. After our liquidity sweep, we're pretty much looking for a break of structure on the 5-minute. And as we can see here, price broke structure with this candle right here. And after price growth structure, I'm looking for, or really, if I had to be honest with you, I really didn't consider price broken structure until we got this candle right here. So when price broke structure right here on the 5 minute, at that point, I'm really looking for a retracement because we already had a number of confirmations we're looking for up to that point, which is our liquidity sweep, our break of structure, our fair value gap. At that point, I'm more or less just looking for our retracement back into that fair value gap point. And as you can see here on this 5 minute candle, going into 9:45, we got our pretty much our 5 minute retracement. And you go to like the lower time frames at that point. And this is why I like waiting for my retracement, because you'll notice something else when I get to it. But what did price do at this point? Once price, cause I entered at 9:45. Yep, 9:45. So once price broke these lows right here, all this is signaling that price has, like, orders were filled at this point. So once we have this break of structure, we know orders were filled, and this retracement is pretty much price telling us that, this is our last pullback until we continue lower. So getting into this retracement, I didn't get in right here on this M1 candle, which would have been valid in my eyes, but I just pretty much like being as safe as possible, especially if I'm doing this evaluation. We're just going to go ahead and wait till the 5 minute close. So on the 5 minute, we saw that pullback. We got a nice candlestick confirmation. We can even pull up equilibrium just to kind of give us more confluence with that trade. As you can see, price came straight into equilibrium for a drop lower. And at that point, I'm just like, okay, let's go ahead and put our stops above previous highs, which I felt very comfortable with. And we were in a lot of drawdown. And like I mentioned before, like, I definitely dropped like 2 extra contracts than I should have. Up until this peak drawdown, I was already down like $900. Like, it was a crazy amount of money for that size account I had, because I only have a max drawdown of 4,500. That's risking it. That's really pushing it, especially with that loss we took last week. We're down like 600 from last week. So saw this drawdown. I said, okay, this is insane. This is kind of crazy. But I still held because I was still comfortable and confident in my trade. Once price came back into profit, it pretty much just dropped from there. Like, it just it did exactly what it was supposed to do. And price came to this previous level of liquidity, cleared these lows, and even went lower and cleared all the way down, I think, yesterday's low. So it actually didn't clear yesterday's lows. It created equal low. So I see price probably going lower. Like, if I had to go to like an upper time frame, I can see price coming back all the way down here before we continue higher, like taking out these lows before we go higher. But we'll see. I'm not really trying to predict the market. I just like to take it for what it is. So that's what we're looking at right now for ES. NQ had a really good setup too. I'm not even mad at the setup NQ had, because it has something very similar as well. What do we see happen here? I'm just going to clear all this anyway. Well, I could just do it like this. Very similar thing on NQ. We see our levels of liquidity right here. All these pending orders potentially. Price came at New York Open right around here. Took out these highs. Well, after we take down these highs, we're looking for a break of structure. So we're going to our 5 minute. After price had our break of structure right here, I would look for a 5 minute retracement. This I would not like this either, because we're not forming lower lows. When price formed this lower low right here, that would have been a valid entry, honestly, if you looked at NQ. And you could have entered there and did the same thing I did on ES and found your entry right there at the drop of those lows. I mean, let's see, we can enter there. Of course, we're going to look on the lower time frames to look at price action down there, probably find some type of fair value gap, of course. Yeah, easy fair value gap right there. So that would have been an entry right at 942. And if we go even to the higher time frames, me personally, I like finding those previous areas of like fair value gaps too. So like something like, let's see here, is there even a fair value gap here? Nothing that I like. There's a fair value gap like right here. It's not the cleanest, but you could have found a lower time frame, 1 minute fair value gap to help support that entry. And that would have been cool. I think that would have been decent. But if we go back to that 5 minute retracement, if you were to find an entry there, put your stops above these highs, you would have been a drawdown just like in NQ or ES, but that would have been fine. And then target previous areas of liquidity. So that could have been either right here, which is very similar to ES, or even down here, yesterday's low. So you could have got up to a 1 to 3 risk reward ratio, all the way up to 1 to 8. And that's even close to what we could have did on ES. ES at the most we could have got today was a 1 to 11 risk to reward ratio. So something like that would have been insane. Like, I don't think, me personally, I wouldn't want to held that long for today during the valuation. Maybe after we build a bigger buffer for our profits. But, with Top Step, we know about their consistency rule. We can't just take any crazy risk to reward ratio trades, because you're going to have to make up a profit to help max that. Even getting a trade that did $4,100 today, if we got to like over 50%, we're going to have to have profits on our other trades match that essentially. But with that being said, really like this setup today. Feel very confident in it. The only thing I didn't like was the risk management thing, but that just takes more time for me to get used to the trading view. The trading view, placing trades to Top Step and Tradeovate. But with that being said, that's pretty much it. Last time I forgot to show the account. I'm gonna go ahead and show the account. Try to remember to do this every video. As you can see today, this is our best day. Worst day, of course, was the last trading day we had. Not gonna lie, if we took a loss today, that would have made me delete the channel. We're gonna just start this thing over. But no, that's just the honesty you gotta have. That's just the transparency you gotta have. And even me, I could have came on here and said, yeah, I knew exactly what I was doing to make up these profits. No, that's not true at all. I definitely felt like we needed to address that, because some type of wins like this, that can look great, but like, in all reality, this shouldn't have been a win like this. I should have only risked 500. It was 3.9, so that should have been around like an $1,800, $1,900 day. So we made a lot more than we should have. We're not gonna beat ourselves up about it, but just like a loss, I'm not about to like really celebrate a win like that, because this is just baby steps. This is stepping stones up into the next trade. So yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video, and I'll catch y'all the next one.